that, let's move over to our main topic today, which is Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend, man. There's a feeling, there's a vibe. I just want to rip my shirt off and jump in a pool.
I'm glad you feel that way because I don't get that excited.
Well, yeah, or a green screen pool maybe. Have you ever? What would you jump into of a pool-sized proportion? You understand, like Jello or shrimp, or like what would you jump into that's pool-sized?
Well,
Hawaiian Punch.
No.
Mine? Do you want to know mine? Panda Express orange chicken.
Dude,
I've had a dream as a kid. Can I tell you my dream as a kid?
Please.
Did you ever watch the old show with Scrooge McDuck?
No.
Oh, you're so young.
So, dude, I'm 3 years younger than you.
Well, then why don't you know it? Anyway, in this, he has this vault. When he opens it up, there's a diving board and a huge, like...
Oh, is this the DuckTale people?
Yeah.
I've seen, I know
and
who
it's
that
just tons
is.
of gold, right?
Right, I know who that is.
I always wanted that, but I never wanted the gold. I wanted the food. So I would want pizza in it. With no disregard for me snapping my neck and dying immediately. But I want to dive into pizza like a cartoon. And I want to... with all the pizza. And with orange chicken, I want to do that. So what is yours with that?
Dude, you know those twisty swirl ice creams, like the vanilla and chocolate?
Yeah, I do.
I'll slurp all that up from the pool.
You know, there's a specific one at... have you heard of Little America?
Yeah.
There's a Little America in between Rawlins, Wyoming, and here, basically, that you'd always stop off at and just get an ice cream cone from it. Have you been to that?
No.
Dude, it's so good. I'd get those every day.
Or, you know, this is probably Utah specific, but Pace's Darien. Have you been there?
I don't know if I have. No.
It's a burger joint, but they have these slushy stuff that's really good too, and you get different flavorings. But they have like slushy, but it has like ice cream in it too. It's really good.
Well, with Memorial Day, I wanted to talk about anybody in our family that has served, and also, of course, give a shout out and our love to all the families of people that have served, that have passed away, fighting for this country.
Right.
And knowing about, like, we just constantly hear more and more about these stories about heroes and what they were able to do. And knowing that we all have them in our own personal lives, I think is really important to showcase. So I asked you for you to think about at least the people in your life. And although we couldn't get pictures for you for yours, I do have a quick one for mine. And this is my grandpa. So my grandpa served in World War II. And honestly, he didn't talk too much about it. And I'm sure that's going to be the case with a lot of families. It was just such a crazy experience. I couldn't imagine wanting to go in and talk about a ton of stuff. But we always knew that he served. And when he had passed away just a few years ago, we had gone to his house in Rawlins, and we had kind of looked through memories, looked through his old military patches and seen the awards that he had never told us about that he'd won. And we were just, this is crazy. And we got to see the jacket, his military jacket, and I put it on, and it fit. And it just such a weird feeling. Like you saw on the first card, he was 145 pounds when he started. I think I was 145 pounds when I was in 11th grade.
Right.
It's insane to think that back in those days, that was like the requirement that you needed to get there. And I think it still kind of is for like age and height range and requirements with that. But to think about that, I don't know. Tell me about your family member or members.
Well, the one that first comes to mind I most know of is my grandpa. Fought World War II as well. And I don't know. He never talked about it either. Mm-hmm. Like everything I heard, like when he did talk about it, has come through my parents. But even then, they were like, "Oh yeah, he never talked about it." But I do remember specifically having a souvenir. It was like a round bullet. I mean, it was like huge, dude, like a donut hole almost, right? Mm-hmm. But apparently that was from his plane. Like he got shot through there or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, he had his Purple Heart too.
Dang.
Yeah. But he didn't talk about it. I do have one story though, because we'll get into it with the movies, but he went to go see Saving Private Ryan, and like a lot of vets, he walked out in the first 15 minutes because of how brutal it was. But he told my dad, the one thing that will never capture is the smell of blood and bodies. No, I'm being serious. Like, I'm being serious.
What the fuck? He's a really cool guy. That's crazy.
I know, but it's also sad because, like,
it's also sad. But
like,
how old were you? Well, wait, you heard this. How old were you when you heard this?
Probably 8. But no, because Saving Private Ryan came out in 98, right? I was 4 then, so like I don't remember any of that. So it was after his funeral because he passed away in 2003.
Yeah.
And by the way, funerals for vets are kind of like cool to witness when you're that young of an age because they did the whole gunfire.
I played the trumpet at my grandpa's.
See, yeah, and the American flag, and like it was interesting. The fact I remember some of that too, like it's cool how much that embeds. And like I kind of regret not knowing more about that. But granted, I was like really young. But it would be nice to actually hear some of the stories if he had ever opened up about it. But
I think a big part of it is probably just them wanting to
forget about it.
I would say protect their family more than anything.
Probably.
Like forget about it too. But there's also a probably a significant level of PTSD there that I'm sure back in the day, like, I don't know, coming back from the Civil War, nobody was like, and how do you feel? To the person that was showing up after just
how do you
killing
feel about
their
the
brother.
South?
I know. And like, I could never, like, I feel when I was watching Saving Private Ryan yesterday, I fucking hated Oppum. And everybody should hate that guy. I hate that guy. But here's why I hate that guy. Because deep down, I'm that guy.
Exactly. I was going to ask, like, it made me question, like, if I was in that situation, would I be scared shitless like he was, and like just because you can't control how scared you are. I mean, that's just what it is, right? And he even says early in the film that he didn't, like, he had basic training, but he hasn't held a weapon since basic training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that just says a lot, and it really and he wanted to see the best of everybody, regardless of what side you were on. So it kind of,
he was a piece of shit and I hated him, but it was also very interesting to think about, like, putting yourself in your shoes. Who are you in this situation? And I don't think the answer that you can give will ever be accurate because you'll never know.
Exactly.
But I guess it says a lot for yourself if you're like, I'm Oppum, but I do think there's a little bit of like frozen inability to act that is very human in those situations that makes that character super interesting. And also somebody that you, in a sense, understand, even though you hate all of his actions.
Right.
I hate him.
Well, here's the thing too. It's because Tom Hanks' character mentioned something about it with friendly fire, because that's a thing that does happen probably far too often, right?
Yeah.
But movies don't portray that.
Movies don't, but movies do portray a lot of war films, and we should start talking a little bit about some of these war movies. So we could go by how. There's so many. Like, you could talk about the Patriot. We could talk about Black Hawk Down.
Let me ask you a question. This thought came to me in a shower.
Oh,
I know. When we talk about war films, are we talking about with guns? Or are we talking about like medieval wars? Because
anything.
They're all wars,
anything
right?
Involving like
battles,
combat with armies.
Okay.
It could be 300.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't start there, but if somebody is like, I love Zack Snyder, let's start with 300, and then we'll let that person be over there, sit in the corner, and they can yell that without a microphone.
Right.
Yep. But Saving Private Ryan was what I watched yesterday for the first time all the way through. Wow, it's incredible. Like, you can't not say it's incredible. I watched half of Platoon, and I ended up falling asleep during that.
I haven't
very
seen
different
Platoon.
Between the two. Very different.
One of my friends on Letterboxd was very critical of Saving Private Ryan and said Platoon did a better job at conveying a lot of the themes.
Interesting. Like, what themes? Do they get into any detail?
Just less hoorah.
So which would you like between Platoon or Apocalypse Now?
I haven't seen Platoon. I haven't seen Apocalypse Now.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Okay, so Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is interesting because it's also the behind-the-scenes stuff that's very interesting, too. Like,
there's different cuts, right?
Well, not only that, just what all of the actors had to do and what was happening to them. And like Martin Sheen almost died and all kinds of stuff. Like filming. Didn't they actually film in Vietnam? I believe they actually went to Vietnam and filmed.
I have no idea.
But yeah, seeing all that stuff, that movie is incredible. There's a lot of Vietnam films. Full Metal Jacket. Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
I have. That one's it's dark.
That one's very, very dark. And it really covers everything.
It does.
Stanley Kubrick is one of those directors, man. Like, his stuff lasts forever. Like, just timeless.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact he did like horror movies, sci-fi, war, he was a director of all trades, really.
Mhm.
But well, a movie that comes to mind that's
give me some favorites.
one of my favorites is actually Black Hawk Down, which is a Ridley Scott.
I've not seen it, so you're gonna have to give me plot and tell me more.
It's a Ridley Scott movie, but it's these soldiers who have to stop like an uprising in Somalia, which is based on a true story in the 90s. That happened.
Do you want me to give you more?
No, you're okay.
I can give you more.
No, okay.
Just more?
But Patrick.
Go on.
Anyways, it's one of those movies I saw on TV, so it was like TV edited, you know. And the I don't know. I watched a lot of war movies when I was younger too, and I'm not the biggest fan of war movies because a lot of them do come off as like hoorah, you know.
Mm.
So
I didn't backwash or anything. You're good.
The real question is, do you have COVID?
I sacrificed the whole can too. I just want you to know.
Thanks.
There's love. There's love in that cup.
Another one though is medieval stuff. I love sword battles, hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that. Kingdom of Heaven, which is another Ridley Scott movie.
I've not seen Kingdom of Heaven, and I've heard only watched the director's cut. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why? How different is it?
It goes.
Why is Ridley Scott always getting his movies messed with?
Why is Zack Snyder? Ask that question.
Well, why is one more deserving of having their movies messed with and one is not?
Because one's made better movies than the other.
That's an answerable question. But anyway, why? No. You didn't really answer my first question. Why do you think Ridley Scott is getting blindsided? He's one of the best directors in the world, and he has nothing like as far as what Zack Snyder's like. I don't know, hesitancy.
Well, here's the thing. So, Kingdom of Heaven there's a lot of controversy surrounding it because
with Orlando Bloom, correct?
It has him, but it's not because of him. Because the thematic, it's about the Holy War, right? You have the Muslims versus Christians versus Jews, right?
Jeez, we got listeners on the podcast, man.
Whoa.
Sorry for the bass rumble, my friends.
I my elbow hit it. But the controversy is that Orlando Bloom's character starts questioning his own faith. And it really did not sit well with people.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's the most Ridley Scott thing you can do because the dude's a full-on atheist.
Yeah. And
so it's cool. And the movie... The production quality of the theatrical, it's not bad. Like I like the theater one, the theatrical cut, but he adds more scenes into it that adds more context to these characters, and it just makes the third act pay off better. It's like 30 minutes longer.
Yeah. Well, are you interested in seeing a Denis Villeneuve war film?
Like, I would be, yeah.
Who could you plug a director in for a war film that you haven't seen yet that you're interested in?
Oh man. That's a tough one.
While you're thinking of that, I'm going to list off a few and talk more about them. There's also the superhero genre. You can't count them out because they bring themselves into history, right? World War II is a huge part of the Avengers. It's probably one of the biggest parts of the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how big it is. Nazis show up in Endgame still. When you think about it.
It's because Nazis are still relevant today, apparently.
But Nazis. But Wonder Woman also going into World War I, something that 1917 also did with Sam Mendes, which honestly, Roger Deakins' cinematography in that was incredible. Having it be comprised to look to be all in one take, and the cinematography in that, like, wow, is so good. Dunkirk also, we can talk about Christopher Nolan's sound design with Dunkirk and how they were able to make the planes just feel crazy when you're watching it on IMAX.
Dude, Dunkirk was like a mind fuck too because of the editing, because there's 3 different stories happening at 3 different times. And the way it played out.
He's always got to go nonlinear.
I know how. Okay, so let's talk about Dunkirk just real quick. When you first heard it or heard about the project and before the trailer was even released, what was your first thought? Like, how would Christopher Nolan put a Nolan twist to it?
No, I never look how, because I always assume the trailer's going to show me where the twist is coming. Like Tenet shows you the twist. Like, okay, it's some kind of reversey thing.
Yeah.
Dunkirk, I don't think really. Oh, no, they didn't really. And so I was, to me, the only thing I thought when I first saw the trailer was, this is Nolan trying to get an Oscar. Like, this is his Oscar attempt, and this is his war film. Like, he's wanting to tackle each genre, like what a lot of directors can do, but often don't get a budget to do. He's getting a huge budget, so let's cover Dunkirk, which the story is pretty incredible, wouldn't you say?
It is, yeah. My thought was it was going to be like with the Bermuda Triangle.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, well, there's so much fun theories with the triangle, right?
Mhm.
How would he put a Nolan twist to it? Oh, because I didn't know anything about Dunkirk either. I didn't know it was a real battle. So,
well, going back to Chadwick Boseman, speaking of him, *Defy Bloods* is incredible. Have you seen that? Spike
I did.
Lee?
Yeah.
Yep. Can we talk about the Oscar snub for there?
I mean, if you want,
for lead actor and supporting actor, like, man, that was a show. We don't need to talk about that ever again.
No.
I hope they do better next year.
The Oscars?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that's off topic. What else?
What do you mean? Yeah, there's all kinds. Okay. Well, I mean, you essentially could put in, why am I blanking on the name? Schindler's List.
And you know what? It's another movie I haven't seen.
You haven't seen Schindler's List?
I know, dude. I know.
Do you have your film critic card? Can I take that from you?
You want my degree?
Oh, I'm gonna need I need your degree, actually.
Just so you know, I haven't done anything.
About that. I was going easy on you, but I'm gonna need the degree.
I have two. You're good. So going back to your question, though, David Fincher would be a fun director to do a war movie.
Interesting.
The attention to detail,
so difficult.
Yeah, dude.
That's probably why he hasn't done it, because it's like, I'm not gonna work with 60,000 people.
Dude, imagine him doing 80 takes of like in 1917 with the
explosion scene.
Well, the 1917, the one take, the explosions running across the field.
I don't like how that explosion looked. We can't control it. It's just fire, David Fincher. Shut up. Do it again.
That'd be fun. I don't know. That would be an interesting one.
Tarantino did a war film with *Inglourious Bastards*,
which is really good, by the way. Brad Pitt.
We talk about fantasy fiction inside of war films, like changing history. What do you think of those type of movies where they're not necessarily going for accuracy, they're going for story and intention? There's that's a good example, but then there's Pearl Harbor, that's an example.
I don't hate Pearl Harbor though. I'm sorry, it's one of those movies that I watched when I was younger. But the two VHS tapes,
all they had was that.
I know, but dude, it has Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and
your ultra right wing Republican history teacher put that out on repeat.
No, it's actually my grandpa's a huge war fan, right? And like even Saving Private Ryan, one Memorial Day actually tying that back into it. He put that on during a barbecue. He's like, "Watch this. This is good history." Like,
no, see, that's
8
the
years
problem.
old, dude. I was 8 years old,
and so he formed your mind with something that was inaccurate. That is not.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. I was being critical of Saving Private Ryan before the show started.
But so many people don't know that, and we're like, "That's good." Moving on until I'm 50 years old.
I think that's the issue with war movies now, is because of how glorified and patriotic they make it seem.
Like Hacksaw Ridge.
Dude, that was brutal.
So I enjoyed Hacksaw Ridge quite a bit. I think Andrew Garfield's incredible. And yes, Mel Gibson sucks. Let's all be real.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson kind of sucks. I think he's done great things for Robert Downey Jr. There's no doubt that he helped him with his rehabilitation and stuff, but he's a piece of shit. And yeah, it was a good movie.
Well, Hacksaw Ridge and American Sniper are two movies that I did not see in the theater, and I had no intention to because of how controversial the film directors are. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of message are you going to be putting in here? Because the wrong person hears the wrong message, all hell's going to break. And we saw that in 2020, especially, right?
Sure.
I mean, so Hacksaw Ridge, though, dude, I'm surprised how well he handled that.
Yeah.
It was overly bloody, but damn.
Has Scorsese tackled any war film yet?
Post-war, I mean, Irishman's like veterans.
Yeah. Gangs in New York is kind of in a weird thing. Anything that's like gangs is a kind of like mini war, right? Like turf war stuff and
right,
like town. Yeah, but I don't know if that still really counts. I don't know. I feel like there's got to be one that we're missing that he's done. He can't have. I don't know. Maybe that should be one that he can cover. I'm surprised that of all the movies, he's done a lot. He's done a lot of horror. He's done a lot of, personal stuff, a lot of Wolf of Wall Street stuff.
Yeah.
No war movie.
James Mangold would be an interesting one.
Oh, we could talk about David Ayer's only good movie, Fury.
I haven't seen that either. So
Fury is actually a fairly good movie. It's the one time he really nails an ensemble cast. Like Brad Pitt, Shia LaBeouf. It all works fairly well.
Who's an actor that you want to see in a war movie?
Who's an actor? Dane DeHaan. I think he
good.
Could work well. I really like. You didn't see 1917? Did you?
No, I did. I was critical of it. I got shit for being critical of it because the one take was such a gimmick that took away a lot.
I don't like this gimmick word for it. It's a film style. It's a film technique.
Right. No, it is. It's a film style and technique. But to do a whole movie that way, like a war movie, it held it back in a lot of ways too. I
don't think it did.
I know. And that's what people say. That's the pushback. Well, I don't think it did. It fucking did.
Well, what? I don't know. I think when you restrict yourself with filmmaking like that, that's when you're able to have technically astounding things happen.
Right.
Maybe not in a narrative sense, but they were wanting to showcase both sides of it. And that's why it's stronger with them going this way rather than focusing on story. Because then you're not going to get a very, very unique style of filmmaking.
Right. I understand that. But
it's like the Michael Bay effect. Most people are like, I go to Michael Bay films because I love the story. Wrong. We go because we love to see all the boom, boom, bang, bangs and the weird mechanics and Anthony Hopkins talking to Megatron and whatever they're doing, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Fast and Furious for one specific reason, the character arc. No, you got to watch the vroom vrooms,
Apparently.
Except for John Cena.
Dude, another one.
He was one of our sound effects. I'm going to have to get rid of him. Now it's
how do you get a job here, face?
Another one I want to mention real quick is Lord of the Rings franchise. The war battles in that.
Oh yeah, that totally works. You can talk Game of Thrones too.
Game of
Battle
Thrones,
of the Bastards war scene.
Yep.
Ooh, but again, not real.
Then there's a documentary Peter Jackson did as well.
Of World War II. Mm-hmm.
No, World War One.
It was a World War One. Oh, my bad.
They will grow old, or they shall grow old. Yeah, they colorized it. They added frames, so it was the 24 frames because back then it was the hand crank.
Yeah,
right. And they also added dialogue, and they actually had to read their lips and get a gist of what they might be saying. It's crazy, dude, and it's a really good movie. But it's interesting is that there hasn't really been a movie that has the reality of no man's land. It's always this myth of even our imagination can't fathom how gruesome and brutal no man's land is. Do you know what no man's land is?
Of course. That was from 1917, from Wonder Woman 2. It's getting prominently featured in a lot of
right, but not in a Saving Private Ryan way. Not necessarily. And there's no footage of that either, which I thought was really interesting, and because I kind of made that connection in the because anybody who walked in there died, right?
Yeah.
Which is tragic. But war movies.
Not having anything with that. What else? We've got The Patriot, Mel Gibson again. That was, I believe, Civil War. I can't. We can talk about Hamilton, honestly.
Hamilton, yep.
Hamilton is incredible.
Yeah. Glory with Matthew Broderick.
Glory. There's a ton of offshoot films that aren't super impactful that I don't know, a lot of people like.
Legends of the Falls has war in it.
Do you know what war films I can't necessarily get into too much? It's the new era, the technological warfare that's happening now.
You mean Call of Duty?
The new films do nothing's like big battle war anymore in 21st century war films, right? It's always SEAL team going in, small group, like The Lone Survivor with Mark Wahlberg. That's a great example.
Hey, spoiler alert.
Zero Dark 30.
Right.
Jarhead.
Right. Yeah, that goes back to my point of they become very hoorah. And if the wrong person hears that message, it's not going to be pleasant.
It's a weird balance to strike with a war film because you do want to be hoorah, you do want to be patriotic, and you want to make sure that you're showing that no war film is trying to.
Well, I think
I don't know. I guess this isn't fair to say. It's fair to say. Never mind.
Well, I think being patriotic isn't. There's nothing wrong with being patriotic. I think it's taking patriotic to the extreme extent that we do, especially that we saw in 2020 and 2021. Right? It's so taken out of context now that if a film isn't deemed patriotic to certain people, they revolt against it, even though the movie is doing just fine handling the content. Like Saving Private Ryan. I mean, that movie, I mean, there's patriotism in it, right? I mean, the closing shot is of the American flag and then it fades, right? I mean, how much more like hoorah, right?
I think you're being overly critical. Those movies are like that because that's what those movies are.
Right. But the movies now, like what you're talking about, like Lone Survivor and all that, it's more extreme than just telling the story of heroes. I mean, it's literally, I mean, they are heroes.
See, I'm more desensitized to it. I don't know why.
That might be
there's something more to seeing the gruesomeness of what low tech and just like explosive types of weaponry looks like, especially when it's like right up close and personal too. Like you can't replicate that versus we're going to have a shot of a bunch of people in a room watching a monitor of a drone doing a boom.
Right.
Like it's just very different.
It is different.
But the destruction is very similar. You just don't get the same kind of like look at it that you would.
Dude,
I'd be interested to see how they can change that.
I would be too. Going back to hand-to-hand combat though, that was always my thought was like when you're facing face to face, 5 feet apart, swinging your sword, like not only is that skill, right? I mean, like that's like
depending on the time,
brutal, dude.
If you were in Kingdom Hearts era, it was impossible. Try to swing that with chainmail all over you.
No, right. And then like even the chances of hitting your own person, like swinging your sword, fingers being cut off, like I feel like that'd be more brutal than what we are now, but it's because I think guns have made it less personal and more of a, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. To be fair, war films aren't my favorite.
Mine either.
Because they're difficult to watch.
Yeah.
And it is tough to know when you're like, you don't want somebody to be like, I love films about killing. You know what I mean? You don't want that person hanging out with you that's like, all I watch are war films 24/7. That's all I care about.
But there are people out there
who do
that.
And that is to your point, my friend. However, I do have to say, there is something unique about this genre specifically. Okay. And it applies universally to every country that does their own type of war film. There's a level of propaganda that you don't get anywhere else. There's a level of patriotism, whether you're from France, whether you're from Spain, whatever war film you're watching from your country, there's a level of patriotism that you have and either love for your country or like a introspective look at the issues with it,
Right.
Either way, I think they're fascinating. They're absolutely necessary. Like if we didn't, you don't think that war films are necessary?
I don't.
We need
I
war
really
films.
don't.
If we didn't have war films, how would we learn?
Okay, war films are written in the eyes of the victor.
We need history.
What are we learning? Because a lot of the war films are from an American perspective. The American perspective has been skewed.
But storytelling can be done by showcasing both sides.
But what films do both sides? That's the question. Because so far it's been very America hoorah.
I don't think as of late it's been as hoorah. Like American Sniper, Clint Eastwood is very American hoorah. So that movie will be very American hoorah. But Zero Dark 30 is not very American hoorah.
So
it's very, we're going and we're solving a mission. We're tackling an objective. When other ones just are more gratuitous in the sense of showcasing a flag right in your face.
Well, wait,
there's patriotism can be either way, as long as it's not someone's underwear that's wandering around in an American flag pantyhose or something.
Well, here's the thing too, though, is a lot of these war films come out when we are struggling with like post 9/11, right? How many war films came out in between 2001 to 2015?
It's
a lot.
It's a machine that's always been going.
I know, but now we're kind of past that phase, I think, for now, and that's when we get the superhero stuff because we moved on. Same thing could be tracked with westerns. because it was still war films before that, and then it turned to westerns, right? And then it turned into something else. But then every time we are in a conflict as a country, Hollywood likes to propagandize. I don't know, do propaganda.
The government likes to let Hollywood likes to pay.
It's
Hollywood.
a hand-in-hand thing because it's all about the money.
But that's why the genre is so unique to itself and why I want it to stay, because it's a weird channel through our government to us, and it's also a weird channel through us and our ancestors in our history that you just don't get.
But if it's coming from the government, it's still going to be very much in our favor.
You're only thinking it like that. Let A24 do a war film.
Okay, it's called The Green Knight.
But that's the thing. Because it's A24, you're not thinking that, are you? So it's all about the story. It's all about how they're crafting it and how they're able to trick you into being into the story. And even then, the director may just have the motive of, I want to showcase my grandpa and how he fought and how he was brave. And the studio says, okay.
That's great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I don't think they need to be.
It seem like I don't know why you've turned like this.
I told you this from the beginning.
You might want to backtrack, brother.
I'm not backtracking. War films are not my favorite.
Be propaganda.
But literally, if the
genre is not my favorite.
But I mean, like, look at Steven Spielberg, Saving Private Ryan, right?
It's not propaganda,
dude.
It isn't,
dude.
Then you have to say that Jurassic Park is dinosaur propaganda.
But
that's just what the movie's about. That's just what the movie's about. It's weird that you're sensitive to it.
I'm just trying to be. I don't know. We'll just. I don't want to. I'll just stop crossing lines.
It's okay. Here's why I think you're sensitive to it. Because we have a lot of people in this country that have truck nuts on their car, that have American flags on stuff that they consider patriotic that aren't. And today, even, we just had a vote that was nonpartisan and that clearly shows that our country has been more divided than ever. There's two definitions of patriotism in this country.
It's skewed as fuck right now.
But here's the thing. If you are going to let that affect your film watching, stupid people, if you're going to let that type of patriotism affect your definition of it and your interpretation of it by the films that you watch, which not all of them are from Mel Gibson or Clint Eastwood.
Right,
Some are from people that have well intentions and can make a film that is unbiased and does look at both sides. However,
but name a film that has. That's my point.
See, that's the thing. When I did, you said, well, no, that's it. Saving Private Ryan.
It shows both sides?
It showed that family that was in the town.
Huh?
It showed that family that was in the town.
Right, but then they also backtracked by showing the German they let loose rejoin the German team.
But they show humanity on that side too.
Really? Because the guy shot only him.
When he's killing the guy, it's not necessarily he had other options. The German dude up in there? No. I'm not talking about Oppum. That German guy didn't have a choice. He had to kill that dude.
No, I know that, and we saw that. Like we saw that.
So in the act of war, and that's the interesting thing with this. In the act of war, you can't really blame the other side because the other side is fighting.
But the movie did blame the other side.
I disagree with that.
Because
that's your interpretation.
Why would he rejoin the German side then?
That's what they said. He was picked up from the other side, but still.
But that's what I'm saying though. Is like
I don't think that Saving Private Ryan has that example that you said, but there are movies that do. We can leave it at that.
Okay.
Cool. Man, are we plugging Cast Off? Is that what this was?
Yeah, speaking of which, if we're plugging Cast Off.
Cast Off, it's a casting off. What? Okay.
That's what Matinee Heroes.
Oh,
you know what? Okay. I should probably do it.
Go back to
Matinee Heroes.
Craig, if you were watching, we've been shit talking each other all week about this.
Oh, we have. Patrick, after this ends, I told you this.
You're
after this ends,
my arcade machine.
No, will you explain to people what you're trying to do?
Bring justice to my world.
How's that justice?
You bought 2 PlayStation 5s
I did not.
For yourself, Chaz.
I did not.
2 for yourself.
I did not.
Change.org, people. There's a petition I would love for you to sign. There is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time arcade machine that's going for $300, which I think is very reasonable.
$300. It's going for $500.
PlayStation 5.
It's going
over
$500.
$1,000.
I didn't buy 2 PS5s.
Selfish.
Dude. Oh my god.
So he's sitting there playing both of his PlayStation 5s, and I'm asking Chaz, please, can you help me? And he goes, "No, Patrick, I won't help you because I've spent all my money on these." As he's, that's with both.
I think I said rent, but okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I think it's fair because I don't have a PlayStation 5, and
I told you how to get one.
By you.
No,
Dang.
no.
Sign up for the petition. Anyway, change.org. That's a good one. I think that's pretty much it we have for Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Love the people that served in your life, that are family.